Hi there, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. A while ago, actually in December, I showed a project share on this box with some mini albums inside. This box actually lights up. I don't know if you could see the lights in there. If I turn the lights off, you could see. And the mini album lit up as well. And I told you I would eventually be doing a tutorial on how to make the box. Well, this is that tutorial. This tutorial is how to make this box, and there is another part of the tutorial showing how I make these mini albums to go inside that box. But if you just wanted to make a box to put mini albums in, well, here you go. So this is a Country Craft Creation design team project. I used paper Here Comes the Bride, available at Country Craft Creations, and the link for the paper and the other supplies will be in the description box below, as well as the tutorials and location of the videos, how to make the mini albums, and the project share on to see this one if you were curious. So without further ado, let's get crafting. Okay, let's make a box. To do that, we're going to need some chipboard, and I'm using heavyweight chipboard. We'll need 2 pieces 6.5 by 6. We'll need 2 pieces 4 by 6. You'll need a scrap piece that is 4 by 4.5. We're going to need a piece for the bottom, but we're not going to cut that one yet. We're going to determine the size after we've made this. And then to cover that, we're going to need 2 pieces. Since the front and the back are 6.5 by 6, we're going to need a piece 8.5 by 8, 2 pieces 8.5 by 8. And to cover the box sides, we're going to need 2 pieces that are 6 by 8. So we're going to start covering similar to how we're going to make how you cover the mini album. I'm using my fabulous 1-inch spacers, and I have the piece of cardstock down. I have my chipboard that is 6.5 by 6, and I am going to add adhesive, especially to the side, like about 1.5 inches up on the sides. Don't need it in the center. So I will take that. You could use score tape if you want. I didn't have any more score tape sheets, and the glue is fine for this purpose. I'm going to put that down. Burnish that real well. Let's leave this floorboard aside. And I'm going to take this part of the bone folder and push right up against that chipboard, same as if you were making the mini album cover. So we're going to do the front and back this way, but don't rush ahead and do the sides. So we'll fold and burnish that. And then same with these sides. Fold and burnish. And go ahead and cut these 4 squares off. And we're going to fold in the side, put the scissors there, and just take a smidgen off. And turn it over and do the same with the other. now I'm going to take my liquid adhesive, put it at the edge, push up against the chipboard, fold it over, I'll do the opposite side now. And just keep pushing and burnish that down real well. Wipe off any excess glue and still go ahead and make crisp lines on the edge. Having that glue in there helps make that crisp line and keeps it straight. So go ahead and do the other one. I'm also going to do the sides. So the sides are 4 by 6. We have 6 by 8 pieces of cardstock. Now this we need to make sure we've got glue all over. Now don't rush ahead because again we're going to do this a little bit differently. So we have that. Now on this one, well, let's still fold it. On both sides. Okay, but this time we're going to fold the top and I'm sorry, let's go ahead and take off our squares. Okay, so we have our chipboard on here and I fold and burnished. Now what I want you to do is just using your scissors, just cut up on the short side, cut up to the edge of the chipboard. So don't cut on the long side, cut on the short side. So I'm going to cut here, just up to the chipboard. And turn it over and do the same with this side. Okay, then what I want you to do is fold down the small piece, so you're going to have these two pieces still up. I do want you to, so we should cut this at an angle. So cut from the inside to the outside. So you see all my little slivers coming off. So this was cut at an angle, and just leave that the way it is. So let's glue this small piece on the 4-inch side down. Taking my bone folder and going up against the chipboard and then pushing it down. I used a lot of glue for that one. Do the same for over here. So push down. There we go. I'm going to make sure this is burnished on the top and on the bottom. So do that with both pieces so you'll have this H looking piece with these 4 tabs on each side. Okay, so here is one of the 6 by 6.5 inch pieces covered. We're going to put the side with some of the chipboard showing facing up. Now what I want you to do is grab this scrap piece of chipboard 4 by 4.5. And what we're going to do is figure out where this is going to go first. And I'll show you why in a second. I want to go 1/2 inch up from the bottom and 1 inch from each side. So 1/2 inch up from the bottom. Draw a line. And 1 inch from each side. Okay, don't worry about the top for now. All right, so you see the line? So that's where we are going to make a hole for an opening. So what I want you to do is grab an adhesive, and in this case I'm going to use just a couple of lines of ATG. You could use glue, because it's not going to be permanent. And then cut your paper. Actually, I'm going to use this one. This one I'm going to use for one side. This will be for the other, but I don't want the lines to confuse anyone, so we'll just use this. And this is going to be adhered to the front. But before we do that, what I want to do is, oh, this piece, by the way, is 1/8 inch less than the side of this. So you have a 1/16 of an inch on this side. So it's 5 7/8 by 6 3/8. And I'm just going to center it on here and place it down. Now the glue's going to hold it. Now there's no adhesive around the outside. Don't put any around the 1 inch around the outside or 1/2 inch here. Then we're going to, again, you can measure this if you want, but I'm going to eyeball it at this point. So I'm going to go 1 inch from the side and 1/2 inch from the bottom. And actually what I'm going to do first is grab some ATG and put it on here. And now place that again, 1/2 inch from the bottom, 1 inch from each side. And place it down. I want this to stay pretty tight. And now comes the fun. I'm going to grab a straight edge, an X-Acto, something. Make sure you have a good crisp, clean line on it. And we're going to cut this to have an opening. I want you to make sure you start and stop. Now we're going to cover this piece with ribbon or something, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but the better you get it now, the easier things will be later. So I'm going through a couple of times, making sure I'm right up against that chipboard. And I know I've gotten it. I'm all the way through here. So continue and do all 4 sides. until you have the hole cut it. And I'm going to turn it over and just make sure I connect all those lines. Okay, I'm going to take this piece and put it aside. So there we go with that. Now do the same with the other piece. So again, I'm going to add some ATG to the center. Put this piece down, center it as best you can. And now this has some extra layers now. You could leave them in or pull them off, whichever you prefer. I'm going to leave them. And again, we'll be a 1/2 inch from the bottom and 1 inch from the sides. You can eyeball it, or you can measure if you want to. Oops. Okay, so again, we'll take these pieces and move them out of the way. Okay, so we've got two pieces of the front and back with the holes cut out, and the finished side is going to go on the inside. The unfinished side is going to go on the outside because we're going to cover it with pattern paper. So same with these H pieces. See, it looks like an H. The finished side is going to be the inside. So we're going to take it and push down on your table so the chipboard is even with the flap. I'm going to take that and use my scoreboard and push this H piece up to the top so this little flap will come up right up here at the top, and it's going to go up against the side as tight as you can. And again, the finished edge is going to go on the inside. So I'm going to put some glue on this inside piece. We'll go up here in the corner and take our, let's do it the right way. So the smaller part is the bottom, and this is the unfinished. It's going to go right, nope, wait. Unfinished. Finished is going to show up because finished is going to go against the finished. I'm going to push this down, go up to the top and to the side. And we'll push that down. And now let's flip it around. So now this is the bottom. It's going to go on the top. We're going to take our other H piece, and I'm going to put, finished is going to be facing to the right. I'll add glue, not on the flap, but make sure you get into the corner. And we're going to push this up, the H piece go up against the left side of the scoreboard and push up. So now we've got these two pieces, or these three pieces, with the finished side is going to be in the inside. Now we're going to have to do the same with this other piece. So making sure you have the small part going down, it's going to go in here on the inside. So I don't want to open this up. I'm going to put it this way, and we'll add glue to this flap, going right into that corner. I'm going against the side of this piece. How should I do this? Let me see. Okay, don't forget, small, make sure the small matches the small of the other one. Just make sure your boxes are even. And this is going to go on the inside. So up against, whoops, I didn't want that to happen. Up against the edge of your scoreboard. And just right at the flap. And now I'll just do this final piece. Add the glue to the flap, including here, right into the corner. And glue. I'm going to turn it over and grab my bone folder and burnish. So burnish on all four of those corners and make sure it's square and let it dry. now we're going to take these little flaps let's just cut these down halfway. All right, let's glue those flaps down. On the bottom, well, on one side. And I'm going to cut the flaps off on the top. I'm going to grab my X-Acto to do this. Sorry, sort of change of plans. But I'm finding I don't need these flaps. I thought I would need it to hold everything taut, but it's really holding up on its own. So try to cut them at an angle, just like this. And then let's glue the rest of this down. And there we go. So we have a box, and the inside looks complete. I had a mistake, so it looks a little raw here, but that's okay. And we're good there on the bottom. Now this is when we will determine what we need for the bottom of the box. And the best way to do that is to grab a piece of your chipboard, put it on the inside of one side, one long side and one short side. And then cut it to whatever size that is. So I started out with 7 by 4, and I'm going to cut it down almost half an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch on 2 sides. Okay, very important that we have the top and the bottom correct. The top is the bigger side. So now I'm going to take this piece and it fits in. Could be a little snugger, but that's okay. What we're going to do is cover one side of this with cardstock an inch bigger. So now we have it's 3.5 by 6.5. So we want an inch bigger on, no, not an inch, half an inch bigger on each side. So 4.5 by 7.5 piece of cardstock. Okay, so we have our bottom and we have a piece of cardstock that's 1 inch bigger, so we'll have a half an inch on each side. And we're going to glue this down. You can use your spacers to glue this to make sure it's even. I am just going to simply eyeball it. Put it down. Burnish real well. Then I'm going to take my X-Acto and just make a line from the corner to the corner, from the corner of the chipboard to the corner of your cardstock. And we're going to fold and burnish. and I want the excess cardstock to be facing up. Okay, so this is the box bottom. There's a finished edge here. We've got the overlap, the excess flaps about a 1/2 inch, and we've got it cut it on diagonal. Now let's fold these in, and we've got those little diagonal pieces, fold those in. So that goes folded in. Because what we're going to do is we're putting this in the box. So here's the box. This is the top of the box. Whoops. Top of the box is the part with the bigger piece. We're going to put this inside. Not in glue yet, but once I put it down, then I'm going to add the glue. So this is down at the bottom. I'm going to pull one flap down. A little tricky to do. And add the glue. Hold it down taut. And I want those little triangular pieces to come. I don't want to use my knife. To help support it. So I want them on the outside. There you. Well, for the inside of the box. Pushing it down. All right, make sure this little triangle piece is going to come in the inside. And add some glue to this side. And push and burnish. There we go. Now let's do this side. So again, I'm trying to get these little triangular pieces to come to the inside of the box. It just helps get the corner. There you. It'll help get the corner to have a nice tight junction. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to add glue. I'll have to move that one piece inside. And taking your bone folder, get into the corner there. And push it in. Add some glue to where those triangular pieces are. All right, and one final side. And burnish. All right, and this needs to be a little more. Need a little glue on that flap. And there we go. There's the bottom. And here's the bottom here. So to cover this, we're going to do the same with that we did with the other piece, we're going to add a piece a 1/2 inch bigger. So this is 6 3/4 by, it's 3 7/8. So 7 3/4 by 4 7/8. Okay, so here's the piece, and I am simply going to place the box on top of it. Grab my pencil, go around all 4 sides, and fold and burnish on where our lines are. May not be perfectly straight, but here's my bone folder. And I can't tell you the measurements because, you know, depending on which paper you use, the thickness may be a little different. So that's why I just used the pencil and came up with whatever the measurement is. And I'm lining up this line with one of my divots, not really worrying about what the measurement is, more so trying to get right over that pencil line. And let's do the same with this. Cut on the corner, just cut on the diagonal from one corner to the other. Turn this upside down. I'm going to add glue to this. I'll fold and burnish on the score line. And place this over here. And then I'll add glue to the flaps. I'll do the long side first. And then push in that little triangle piece to this other side. Add a little glue. I'll do this long side next. And push this little triangle piece in. I guess I could turn it this way so you could see a little more what I'm doing. And then we'll do these flaps. All right, I'll put the glue on here this way. I'm adding glue to the triangle, and I'll turn it this way. And push that down, and push those little triangle pieces down as well. I put glue here, including those little triangle pieces. I'll grab my bone folder, push it down, and fold down that triangle piece. Alright, so there's the bottom. Starting to come together, and it's starting to be real sturdy. Once it dries, it's going to be rock solid. So now let's cover the ends. So what we need for this, since that's 4 by 6, and I don't need to go to the top or the bottom, I'm going to have it a little bit shorter than 6. So we'll have it 5 inches by 5 7/8. 5 by 5 7/8. So I actually cut a piece at 6 inches because I could cut it in half by 5 7/8. Oops. So it's just a little bit smaller. And I'm going to take this and figure out exactly what size I need. To burnish it on. I'm going to burnish one side right at the 1 inch mark. It's on the 5. I'll do the other side right at the 5. Let's fold and burnish. All right, add glue. Don't go right up to the top or the bottom. I'm going to take one of the folded flap and add some glue there. And put the folded edge there, making sure I'm not right at the top, not right at the bottom. And I'll take my bone folder and burnish to find out where that fold needs to be. Add some glue and fold that down. And do the same with the other side. Add glue to my flap. Burnish real well. Determine where that fold's going to be. And add glue. That's where I made a mistake and had to peel it off. And there we go. Looking very sturdy. Okay, now we're going to do a couple of things. First of all is you can see some of the chipboard inside this window, and I don't want that to show. So we're going to be cutting 8 pieces of paper to cover that, and we're going to be putting it in like this. To cover that. So since the window is 4 by 4.5, we're going to cut pieces bigger than that. So we're going to cut 4 pieces 5 by 1 inch and 4 pieces 4.5 by 1 inch, and take all those pieces and just simply score them in half. So we'll do that to all of them, but I'll just start with a couple. So this one piece is 5 inches, a little more than 5, but that's okay. So this is going to go where, we'll put it here. So I know that I want to trim it down a little bit. So it needs to be trimmed down just a smidgen. I'll show you how much. Oh, not a smidgen. Not even half an inch. So we'll just take the scissors and make a little diagonal cut, not just right up to that line. And that's going to be the length of how much chipboard is showing. So if you have 4 inches of chipboard showing, you're going to cut. So between here to there is 4 inches. I'm going to fold that. And then I'm going to add glue to the sides, even those little tabs, and especially in the center. And we'll take that, and I'm going to take that little V notch, I'll turn it this way. So you see the V notch that's going to go on either side. And it's okay if it's not big enough. You don't want it to be too big. If it's not big enough, then just grab your X-Acto and just make that notch just so it sits inside there. And burnish on both sides. I'm just going to use my fingers for right now. But I also want to take my bone folder, and I'm going to try to show you, and make sure you go on the top here. So that'll make a nice straight edge, and pull it down for the front, and do the same for the back. Burnish it real well. And again, make sure you go along the edge. So if you add enough glue, you're going to fill in that little corner as well. You see, you don't see chipboard in that corner. So let's do that to all 8 sides where the chipboard is showing. Okay, remember this piece we cut with the hole in it? This is going to end up going on the inside of the box to hide all of our cuts. But we can use this as sort of a template to cut for the outside of the box. Now this is going to be, the size is going to be contingent on the width of the paper and chipboard and everything. So you're going to have to measure it yourself. I have mine 1/8 of an inch smaller, so I'm going to have to cut 6 5/8, and then the height is going to be just about 6. And then I'm going to take the original and center it on here, or you could use the little chipboard piece that we originally used for that hole and just put it on. Grab your pencil and lightly draw a line and cut that hole out, and that's going to go on the outside of the box. I'll go ahead and do that. And so that again is going to go on the outside of the box to decorate that. So go ahead and cut your front and your back, and then measure and see what size piece you'll need for the sides, and go ahead and get that all done and adhere that. Okay, before you start gluing those pieces on, don't forget we're going to put a piece of the acetate to make this a true window. You've got a couple of options here. You could put the acetate on the front, and that is fine. You could put it on the back, so there would be an indentation. If you put it on the back, there'd be an indentation, but it doesn't make a difference. If you put it inside, it would make the mini album slip down easier, and that's what I'm going to do. There's a third option. You could put one on the inside, then put some fillers for a shaker box, and put one on the outside. Now you'd have to have it pretty thin, and I'm not going to do that because I don't want people picking this piece up to make a shaker out of it. I think I'm going to make a shaker on the window of the mini albums. So in that case, what I will do is cut the acetate. I've already cut it. I cut it 5.5 by 5, and I'm going to put that on the inside. And I'm going to use some double-sided tape to adhere it. I don't like using glue to put acetate on, but I will warn you, once you get it on, it's going to stick. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I have some real thin score tape that I've had for a long time. So I'm going to use that, and I will put this on the inside. And honestly, I'm just going to try to have one piece, just because it's sort of difficult to work with. The idea of a shaker would be fun, but like I said, my intention for this is to have, at a wedding, pictures of the bride and groom, maybe baby pictures, and as they get older, and maybe engagement photos. And so I think the mini albums would be picked up separately. I mean, I could see them being passed around at the tables, or put them at the front of the front table where you have gifts. Alright, so I got that one on. And I'm burnishing. Okay, and then I'll take my acetate and just put it in, but before I push it down, I'm going to make sure that it will be even all around. There we go. And I'll burnish that. And then take my inside piece and add some adhesive to it. And I know it's difficult to see, but you really can't do this earlier on, because the whole point of this inside piece is to cover up any mistakes, any ends of the paper. So I'm just going to make sure that's centered over and push it in. Use my bone folder inside. And then I will take my other paper and put that on the outside. I'm still going to embellish this a little bit, but that is what we have for now. And do your best. Don't get any glue on that acetate. Impossible to get off. So I'm flirting with disaster by doing this right over the top of it. But I'll go ahead and put this on. And that hides any irregular pieces, it just hides all of our, just all the ends. I'll do that to the other side, but I also have these pieces cut for the outside here. So I'll put that on. Now that's a pretty cut apart. But I'm not using too many of the cut aparts from this collection. Other designers have used them and have done a fabulous job with them. I'm trying to have a different look, so you guys have some different options. So there's that. And then I'll do the same for this side. I have this piece will go on the front, but I first want to do the acetate. I think you can see pretty well. Let me grab my light a little better. And there's acetate on the front, so that's why you see the reflection. So I'm going to start, actually I'll start at the top. We could do separate pieces here. I don't know if you hear it, but it's starting to get very windy where I am. I'm going to take, whoops, that piece. And put it there. Whoops. Get another piece. Don't want to go too close to the edge. And one more piece. Now, if you want to use a liquid adhesive, you certainly can. I just have not had good luck with it with acetate. So I like using the score tape for the acetate. It adheres almost immediately. And don't forget, I am going to cover this with paper, and I will be using liquid adhesive for that. I'm taking off all of the when I cut the acetate, I cut it with this sheet just so it doesn't get scratched up. Putting it in. And then I'll burnish it down. Grab this inside piece. And this will go inside. And I ended up getting a piece of glue where I didn't want it. Not the end of the world. Okay, I'm going to burnish. And one more outside piece. I love this champagne pattern. And there we go. So now we will embellish this. Probably could have cut this a little bit differently, but that's okay. Once we embellish it, you won't know. And we have feet to put on the bottom, and we're going to make the box top next. Okay, I'm going to make the top now. So I have cut chipboard 6 7/8 by 4 1/8. I've come up with that basically by turning the box upside down, putting it on the chipboard, making sure that there is an extra, let me show you this way, at least an extra 2 widths of chipboard on each side, and then measuring what that is. I just want to make sure that it will go down. So at least 2 extra chipboard lengths total. So, and then I cut that out. And then I cut out 6 7/8 by 1 piece of chipboard and 4 1/4 by 1 piece of chipboard. I cut 2 of those. Get this out of the way. And this. Now I also cut some cardstock 2 inches by 6 7/8. I'm going to take that and put it on my scoreboard. That's the word I'm looking for. And I am going to grab my glue and add glue to 1 inch of the 2 by 6 7/8 and put my chipboard down on that. So there's one, and let's do it with the other one. And then the same thing with the 4 1/8 pieces of chipboard. Alright, and then I'm going to move it on the side and burnish on the back and fold the chipboard, or fold the paper so it makes a right angle with the chipboard. And then I'm going to take my 6 7/8 by 4 1/8 and add glue here. And glue in the corner. And I'm going to add some glue to the edge of this chipboard. and go right up to the chipboard and make a right angle. So the larger piece of chipboard is up against the edge. This piece of chipboard touches the surface, except for the fact that there's a piece of cardstock, and this goes right up against that. So we'll do that. Same with this one. And I'll put this down. This chipboard's going to go down to the table. Oops, and I need to add some glue into that crevice. And hold that till it dries. Okay, let's add this chipboard to that. So I'm going to add glue. And again, this chipboard is against the surface. Push this up. I'm going to pull that away for a sec, add some glue right there. And don't forget to add glue to the side of the chipboard as well, so that's something to grab against. And let that dry. Let's do this side. So I'm adding glue. Put glue at the bottom of the chipboard so it'll grab on there, and put glue on the edge here. And then slide this glue or slide that piece under, and lean it up against the chipboard and hold it there just for a second to try to get it to hold and dry. Now, to ensure that that stays as a square, I'm going to grab some pieces. These are, I don't know, 7/8 of an inch. They're not quite an inch. And I'm just going to fold 7/8 by 3/4 of an inch. Fold them in half, and then I'm going to put them, well, let's start with the outside. On the outside of each of those 4 corners. Oops. Just like that. Let's just do the outside. I'm trying not to make it very bulky on the inside, and our design paper will cover the inside. And let's do that to that corner. And now we have a nice sturdy box top. Now we need to cover this. And we also need to put a handle on it. So let's cut Okay, so I have cut 4 pieces of paper, the length and width of the box by 1 3/4. So 6 7/8, you cut 2 of these, 6 7/8 by 1 3/4, and 4 1/8 by 1 3/4. We are going to glue them to the inside of the box, trying to get as close to the bottom of the box as possible. Again, I'm trying not to add any extra dimension, any extra thickness to the box. There was a piece that was sticking up. I wanted to make sure it went flat. So this one I folded, but I don't think we need to fold them again. So push it to the bottom, and let's just let that dry. Take your bone folder and burnish. So I'll do the same with this side. And put this in. It's a little snug, but that's okay. And again, go to the very bottom. And I'm taking my bone folder and burnishing and making sure it gets into the corners as well. So I'll add some more glue to here. And put in my 6 7/8 piece. Getting all the way down to the bottom. Burnish. Use this bone folder. Burnish some more. And one more piece on this side. I'm letting the rest of it dangle over until I get a chance to fold it. I want the glue to be dried before I fold it over. I can go down to the bottom a little more. This is a great bone folder for this purpose. This is the Dress My Craft bone folder, available at Country Craft Creations. It is fabulous. Okay. Alright, gonna let that dry while I cut a piece for the inside. And again, that is 6 7/8 by 4 1/8. And I'm gonna add glue. Oh wait, no, don't do that yet. Don't put glue in the bottom yet. Because we're gonna do the handle on the top once it's all dry. But we still can finish the sides. So I'm gonna fold it and then burnish. And then let's add glue here. I'm adding glue to the bottom too, underneath, so it hits the edge of the chipboard as well. And I'm doing that just so, I'm doing it ahead of time, just so the glue has a chance to make the paper a little more pliable. And then I'll just go around. All 4 sides. Use my bone folder to push the paper. And another good bone folder is this one to use, because you can see I can get against the side and it works nicely. Now I'm going to take the bone folder and just go around the edge. So you can see on some of these corners, you can see a little bit of the chipboard. I have a white Sharpie that I'm just going to color that in. It just is not worth the trouble of cutting a piece and making it perfect. All right, now let's put pattern paper on the top of the box. So let's cut it 2 inches bigger then the 6 7/8 by 4 1/8. So it would be 8 7/8 by 6 1/8. I have not used this paper yet, and I think it's pretty. So 4 1/8, 6 1/8. And instead of 6 7/8, it's going to be 8 7/8. That's pretty cool, huh? So what we're going to do is put it on the box. I want to make sure there's 1 inch on each side. It's not going to be a whole 1 inch because we have to allow for the folding of it. So what I'm going to do is add glue. To the top of the box. Now this goes down, there's an indentation. If that bothers you, you can fill it in with a piece of extra paper or a couple of pieces, but it'll be fine once we get it all done. And then I'm going to eyeball this and make sure it's in the center. Actually, what I'm going to do is put it on my my mat that's already got lines in it, and just try to center that and make sure it's even. Here's my ruler. That's pretty darn even. Got my bone folder. And even though there's not glue on the side, I'm going to burnish it. And I'm going to take a X-Acto and go from 1/16 of an inch out. I don't want to go right to the edge, and go to the edge of the paper. And add glue to here. I'll do the short side first here. And get it in that hole. Whole piece. So I could have done it a little bigger. I could have cut it, instead of 1 inch bigger, 1 inch and 1/8, and that probably would have been a little better, but that's okay. Now I'm going to fold this over, and that over, this over, and that over. You can tell I'm in the middle of it because my desk is so filled with lots of tools, bone folders, X-Acto, all this, all the good things, in addition to glue on the table. I'm going to grab my bone folder and push that up and pull it to the corner. Do the same with this side. Okay, I'm going to put a handle on the top of the box. So what I need to do is, these go on with sort of brad, so I need to make holes in the top of the box. I am going to put a pencil mark where I need to make my hole. Make sure that is even. It's actually not. I need to move it over a little more. That's good. And then I'll take a poking tool just to start a hole. And take these little brads, push it through. That's how it goes on. And then these legs of the brads come through, and they need to flatten out, and then I need to cover that. So in order to do that, hammer, and you could cut these if you want to. I think I'm okay with it. But just to make sure it's going to stay flat, because I do have this paper. Is this the right size to go? I'm going to add another piece of paper just to cover the whole thing first, and then I'll put this one on. Adding glue below on the top. You know what else I could have used? I could have used some tape, some packing tape. Put that down. And just make sure that stays as flat as possible. And then this goes in, and to put that on, I'm going to add glue. And make sure I get into close to the edge. Not going to go right up to the edge because I don't want to go too far. And then put this on. Grab my bone folder. And if it's too big, you can just push it down into the corners. I think I'm going to take this, maybe go this way. and put that on the edge. So I'm going to cut 1-inch strips and just cover the edge of the box with this pretty design. Okay, and you can see I've decorated the top edge of the box with this paper. And then the only thing we need to do is put these Graphic 45 claw feet on. And so I'll do that after I'm sure I'm done decorating. So that is how to make the box. Now there's also another video showing you how to make the mini albums, and then there is the walkthrough of the box and the mini albums. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day. And that is how I made the box, which will fit these 2 mini albums in it. Again, if you want to take a walkthrough, see the walkthrough of these projects, look for the link in the description box, as well as the link for the tutorial for these two. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.